Welcome to Race for the White House, a show where we bring you the latest from America's political landscape. On today's show, we'll tell you the key takeaways from the first night of the Democratic National Convention as Biden passed the torch to Kamala Harris. We'll also tell you how Donald Trump is countering the DNC in his own way. All of this and much more, so let's get started. This was not the Democratic National Convention President Joe Biden had dreamt a month ago. 2 months ago, Biden expected this event to be his ceremonial coronation as his party's nominee. Instead, he's passing the torch to his vice president now. So Biden defended his record as the president and promised to be the best volunteer for Kamala Harris in a speech that went on for almost an hour. And following this, Biden got a 4-minute standing ovation from the crowd, who often chanted "Thank you, Joe" at various points. Now, this speech was billed as a moment for the US president to pass the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris, who sat with a running mate Tim Walz in the stands. But the sharp transition from one party leader to another was well orchestrated by the Democrats. In fact, Biden had a difficult task in an emotionally tough moment. He understandably wanted to defend his own record while at the same time make the case for Harris, and this was pretty much visible in his speech. In addition, there were plenty of attacks on Trump as a danger to democracy. He described Trump as a candidate who's been taking fundamentally a pessimistic view of the country. Moreover, Biden's daughter, Ashley Biden, painted a more personal picture of her father, sharing stories of him as a parent and as a political leader. So while the president took the stage, he hugged his daughter and dabbed his eyes with a tissue. Now, if you think the first night of the DNC was just an emotional adieu to Biden, then you're terribly mistaken. As always, Democrat heavyweights took the center stage and delivered some fiery speeches, boosting Harris and taking jibes at the Republican rival Donald Trump. Starting with Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State delivered an impassioned speech outlining the historic nature of Kamala Harris's nomination. So the last time Clinton appeared in person before a DNC crowd was in 2016 when she was accepting her party's nomination for president. And this time when she stepped out onto the stage and she was greeted with a wall of cheers and applause that lasted for more than 90 seconds. Some delegates even wept as they watched her return to the stage. And during her 16-minute long speech, she did not just back Harris, she also mocked the man who defeated her in 2016. And more importantly, she expressed that it's time for America to break its hardest ceiling.
Together, we put a lot of cracks in the highest, hardest glass ceiling. And tonight, so close to breaking through once and for all, I want to tell you what I see through all those cracks and why it matters for each and every one of us. What do I see? I see freedom. I see the freedom to make our own decisions about our health, our lives, our loves, our families. The freedom to work with dignity and prosper, to worship as we choose or not, to speak our minds freely and honestly. I see freedom from fear and intimidation, from violence and injustice, from chaos and corruption. I see the freedom to look our children in the eye and say, in America, you can go as far as your hard work and talent will take you, and mean it. And you know what? On the other side of that glass ceiling is Kamala Harris raising her hand and taking the oath of office as our 47th President of the United States.
Next up was energetic speech by Democratic Representative AOC. So the Democrat from New York unleashed a verbal attack on Trump and called him a man who can sell America even for $1. She argued that the country has been presented a rare opportunity with Harris's run and that Democrats must pour every ounce into making history by electing Harris. Perhaps the most notable thing about her speech was the splendid reception it received. The atmosphere among the crowd was notably more energized. for the charismatic AOC than for any other speaker who preceded her. The neo Congresswoman was among the first high-profile speakers at the event to reference the conflict in Gaza.
In Kamala Harris, we have a chance to elect a president who is for the middle class because she is from the middle class. She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions. She is as committed to our reproductive and civil rights as she is to taking on corporate greed. And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
However, one of the most hard-hitting moments from the night came when the stories were shared by these three women who struggled to obtain abortion rights due to scores of state-level restrictions. Perhaps the most gut-wrenching testimony of the night came from Hadley Duval. So Duval is a young woman from Kentucky who at the age of 12 became pregnant and miscarried after being sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
Growing up, I was an all-American girl. Varsity soccer captain, cheerleading captain, homecoming queen, and survivor. I was raped by my stepfather after years of sexual abuse. At age 12, I took my first pregnancy test, and it was positive. That was the first time I was ever told, you have options. I can't imagine not having a choice. But today, that's the reality for many women and girls across the country because of Donald Trump's abortion bans. He calls it a beautiful thing. What is so beautiful about a child having to carry her parent's child? There are other survivors out there who have no options. And I want you to know that we see you. We hear you. Kamala Harris will sign a national law to restore the right to an abortion. She will fight for every woman and every girl, even those who are not fighting for her. And now, I am honored to introduce another champion for women, a leader who's fought for me and for so many others, Governor Andy Beshear.
Democrats pointed out that these stories are an emotional reminder of what's at stake in the November elections. To take this further, our White House correspondent Rohit Sharma tells us how abortion laws in the US continue to be a major issue and how big of a role can they play in this election.
I think, sometimes you wonder, you live in a first world country or not. I mean, women don't have rights for abortion. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And I think, we talk about how elections in certain countries could be based on religion and whatnot, but America also is. I mean, there is a conservative movement, a lot of religious people who don't believe in abortion, and that's driving, some of the states and even, at the federal level, people to make decisions and laws that prohibit women from abortion. So I think, this is definitely one of the major issues. Although it will take Kamala Harris, if she wins the presidency, at least 60 senators, plus majority in the House to make a law, which is very difficult, honestly. I don't think we've had a supermajority in so many years. But at the heart of it all is the fact that women in the United States, depending on which state they live, their bodies can be dictated by law, and that's not how it should be in a free country, in a free world that we live in.
So as Kamala Harris took center stage at the Democratic National Convention, her rival Donald Trump was busy trying to counter her narrative, essentially counter-programming against the Democrats' convention. Now he's going to spend the entire week traveling to battleground states to garner more support and attack her rival. And these attacks began with his remarks on energy and economy in York, Pennsylvania. And this was just a few hours before key speakers took the stage at DNC. So while most of his speech was focused on economy, Trump's growing frustration with Harris's rising popularity translated into more personal attacks. In his efforts to highlight what he calls Kamala's communist ideology, he repeatedly called her Comrade Kamala. He even went on to the extent of calling her father, who's a renowned economist at Stanford, a Marxist professor, while adding that he has taught her well. He further warned his supporters that if Kamala gets in, the US will rapidly become a deindustrialized third world nation. He highlighted his economic policy, pledging to cut taxes, eliminate regulations, and implement tariffs on foreign goods. Now, countering Harris's policy, Trump said that her agenda punishes American workers and rewards outsourcers. And just like Monday was focused on economy, each campaign stop will focus on a key election issue according to Trump's campaign. The campaign will focus on crime and safety on Tuesday, national security on Wednesday, immigration on Thursday, while the former president is expected to visit the southern border and then will round out the week with no tax on tips events on Friday. This as Ohio Senator J.D. Vance will continue to hold issue-centered campaign events throughout the week in states including Wisconsin, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia. The Trump campaign suggests that they are dividing and conquering with their tickets spread across the nation in the highly contested states. Time now for some quick updates that you might have missed from America's political landscape. First up, thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters marched in Chicago as President Joe Biden arrived for the opening of the convention on Monday. The protest was staged in a show of force against his administration's support for Israel in the Gaza war. And after hours of peaceful demonstrations, dozens of protesters broke through the perimeter security fence, drawing riot police to the site. Chanting intensified ahead of the fence breach as protesters reached a neighborhood park on Chicago's west side and paused to amplify their calls for a ceasefire. Amid the noise, the crowd turned its frustration towards Vice President Kamala Harris, referring to the Democratic candidate as Killer Kamala. Donald Trump has claimed that Kamala Harris has opted against participating in a Fox News debate next month. Trump further revealed that instead of doing the debate, he will now hold a town hall. Trump and Harris are set to debate on ABC News on September 10th. Trump had wanted more additional debates on September 4th and September 25 that would air on Fox and NBC. In another news, Donald Trump has now said that if he is elected as the president, that he would tap Elon Musk as a cabinet advisory role. Trump further said that he would consider ending a $7,005 tax credit for electric vehicle purchases. Hours later, the tech billionaire shared an AI-generated image of himself standing at the podium backed by the American flags with the caption, "I am willing to serve." Musk had officially endorsed Trump last month and interviewed him on social media last week. It is often debated whether AI is a boon or bane for technology. The discussion recently fueled up on several social media platforms. This after an AI platform introduced by Elon Musk came up with a fake romantic video featuring Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. So in this video, which has gone viral now, both the presidential contenders can be seen holding hands and strolling along beachside. So take a look at this report as we leave you with these visuals. Thank you so much for watching Race to the White House. See you tomorrow with more updates from DNC.